I think data will become increasingly more important for communication strategies because you need to be constantly listening in terms of what is happening in the social channels, in terms of what is happening in the digital space, how your customer is responding to what you are putting out there, or how your customer feels about your brand. I'm an engineer by education, but I never wanted to do coding, and it was not that fancy career choice at that point in time when I started out. So somebody I really believed in, she said, and I had a simple mantra in life. I wanted that, every day should be a different day when I go to work. So somebody I really believed in, she said that, why don't you try this? And this is when I was just 21 years old. I was like, okay, how does it matter? And I had this passion for brands very early. So that is something that she's seen me kind of from very early years. So I said, okay, it's okay. I will try it out. And I had zero idea of what PR is, to be very honest. And I said, okay, it's something to do with brands and to build brands. So I will give it a try. And that's how my first stint with PR started. I obviously went through the interview process, and they thought that I have great English. So they hired me, and that's where it started. So my first stint was with Perfect Relations, which is technically known as one of the biggest schools for PR professionals in those days. And my first client was Coca-Cola. So I spent about 5 years on the agency side and got some great work to do. After Perfect, I went to Text 100, where I launched the Nokia business phones, the E-series phones, at a time when nobody thought your life will be around the phone, and people didn't really want to believe that they could use the phone for emails or anything beyond just calling or messaging. So from there, and I think about 5 years in the agency side, and then I moved on the corporate side in 2010. When on the agency side, you have to furnish reports at a time when social media was just starting out. Like, this is 2007, 2008 time frame. And at that point in time, I think the interaction was primarily to kind of see what is the tonality, what is the kind of stories, and do the ad value the usual way, which we used to do for our clients. And that's where it started. But over a period of time, then there were these channels that came up, like, international news dissemination agencies that would track it on a lot of other metrics. And when I moved on the startup side is when a lot of interaction with data started to happen, because in startups, fast-paced growth, you have to first get your foot in and kind of explain or kind of win the confidence of the founders that, or the leadership, that PR is an important tool. So I think it's about 8 to 10 years that I've been in the startup world. And then my first stint with data, in real data, was when I had my first stint in startups at Power to SME. It's a very young company, and just about a few months old when I joined them. So how do you really showcase impact? And how do you showcase impact beyond number of stories? And beyond that, I am there in economic times because I got a fundraise. Is something which I started doing with the little metrics that we had at that point in time. And then over a period of time, I think now we have very interesting tools, right from Brandwatch to Meltwater, where you actually can analyze not only the reach or comparison with competition, but you can also analyze how well you're doing, how effective your campaign is. Is it really making an impact on the social sentiment of the brand? So I think it has evolved a great deal. But yeah, my first stint would be when we used to make these heavy duty presentations, actually sit and map the data personally on Excel sheets, build those graphs, and showcase how we were doing against competition, like manually map the coverage for different competition, and showcase it to the client or to our leadership on a month. If you take the example of BharatPe. So when I joined BharatPe, it was a very young company. PR was not like something as a very established function. I think it was just about a year and a few months old. So to start out, I used simple metrics. I said, okay, we will get X number of stories. And that time PR was only like 1 city to 2 cities. So the initial metrics which I used was to kind of showcase that we are creating impact and we are diversifying to multiple channels and not only to top tier media and select cities. From that metrics, then we started to actually go out and map it against competition, because initially we were too small to map against competition. Then as we grew our campaign, we also grew it to multiple cities. So I grew it to like about 30 cities where we do PR on and off over a period of last couple of years. So mapping it to what competition is saying, how we are doing against competition, both from a messaging standpoint. Are we really getting our messaging out there correctly? Are we really getting the reach correctly? Are we really hitting the right chord? Is a few data metrics that we kind of track. We also try to map it to the fact that is it really making an impact? Like for one of the products, we actually mapped it to showcase that PR did play a key role in driving the business growth of the product, because till we didn't do PR, it was not really picking up, and the moment we did PR, it saw a spike. So we do that kind of mapping as well to try and showcase to the management that what impact we are creating is not just number of stories, it's not just getting you a top mention in an online portal. It's much more on a brand level, it's much more on a business level. So there, I think, two metrics that the management very clearly understands. One is brand equity. So if you can show that how your sentiment is growing over a period of time, how it is really, how your campaigns, whether it's a brand campaign or a small product launch campaign, how it's helping to grow the brand equity, that is something they understand. And all thanks to the kind of equity Flipkart built before it was sold. That's one. And second is obviously the business growth. So if you can really showcase, while I think there is still more work to do there in terms of getting the right platforms to be able to analyze it. But what we do is we map it. We do a lot of digital campaigns, also like digital PR campaigns. So we try and map how the impact has been for these campaigns on social channels. There are multiple analytics tools available to highlight how many people we've reached, what's the kind of impact we've created. And for the traditional media channels, we map it using your metrics like an M score, which a Meltwater gives us, which is quite effective in terms of helping us understand the efficacy of the PR campaign. M score. And the reason for that, especially for PR, and I think it appeals to a lot of leaders also, I've seen, because it's a very smart way to map your brand, keeping in mind your messaging effectiveness, keeping in mind your reach, keeping in mind your tonality against competition. And it has like 4 parameters or 4 layers that you need to cross. So it's a very smart mapping of where you are against competition and how well you have grown. So if you map it over a period of time, you will also understand that, oh, my messaging is not great, so I have to do something about it, or my impact story is not coming out that effectively. So I think it works very well for brands like ours. It's worked very well for us. We've been mapping it for the past year and a half actually. And starting from almost nowhere, we were amongst the front runners in our domain, so to say, amongst competition which are much bigger players than us. So I think that's one of my favorite metrics to look at. So there are multiple platforms we use, right from say like a Google Analytics or a social media analytics. For digital campaigns, we also use Meltwater, which I've already mentioned about. We've also been using Brandwatch quite a bit during our recent challenges we were facing, because we wanted to be very, very closely monitor what is happening across social channels in the last 3 months. So we've used a bunch of platforms to closely monitor not only the media stories or the media impact, but also a lot of digital and social buzz or impact over the last few months. So I think if there is a metrics that tells you that, okay, we did this PR and it really helped to scale up the business to a certain level, or this, because of this PR campaign, we saw an upswing. Somewhere if it connects very directly, I've not really thought through it, but somewhere it connects very directly. It makes our life much easier than us going and using our own metrics and trying to push it to the management. Because while we can push it over a period of time, but there could be initial challenges. So I think something which connects to the business growth of the brand, something which connects directly to how powerful a tool PR is for a company. I think it's important to not ignore the power of digital channels. So I think it's important that we have a good balance of traditional media as well as the digital channels. So the new age communication people are smarter in terms of they understand digital channels very well. So they should leverage the power of that to build the brand, and always continue to focus on getting the impact story right or the brand purpose right, because it's not only about the number of stories that you get, or I will pitch a new story to the media. It's about the larger impact that your brand is creating, and it will be like that in the coming years, because the consumer perception, consumer behavior has changed with the pandemic and other things. So I think for the future or the budding communication professionals, they need to focus a lot more on getting the right story out and keep tracking it smartly to know that, okay, are we doing a good job, are we not doing a good job, do we need to iterate? And we should be prepared to iterate, go back to the drawing board, revisit our strategies to continue to make impact, and not just be about selling a product. If you're just about going there, okay, I have this promotional release, nobody's going to pick it up. I mean, it has to be a larger purpose.